A blood-red envelope, sealed with wax that gleamed like fresh spilled ink, arrived on Hercule Poirot's doorstep one foggy London morning, whispering promises of scandal and death. Welcome to the story of Hercule Poirot wished it didn't involve. The Crimson Letter, where secrets bleed out like crimson ink on parchment. Grab a cup of tea, take a seat, and let yourself sink into this twisting tale of mystery and intrigue. If you're enjoying the suspense, hit that subscribe button, because your support means the world to us. Now, let's dive into Chapter 1. Chapter 1. The arrival of the crimson enigma Hercule Poirot, the world-famous Belgian detective with his impeccably waxed moustache and a mind sharper than a stiletto, sat in his cosy apartment at Whitehaven Mansions, sipping his morning tisane. The year was 1935, and London was alive with the hum of taxis and the chatter of pedestrians outside his window. Poirot had just finished arranging his collection of silver snuff boxes when there was a soft knock at the door. His faithful valet, Georges, entered with a puzzled expression. "Monsieur, this was slipped under the door just now. No one was there when I checked." In Georges' hand was an envelope of deep crimson paper, the kind that looked expensive and ominous, sealed with a blob of red wax imprinted with an unfamiliar crest, a twisted rose thorn. Poirot's little grey cells stirred immediately. He took the envelope carefully, noting its weight and the faint scent of lavender mixed with something metallic, almost like blood. "Mon ami Georges, this is no ordinary post. See how the paper shimmers. It is handmade, perhaps from Italy, or France. And the seal, a symbol of passion and pain. We must open it with care." With a small silver letter opener, Poirot sliced through the wax, revealing a single sheet of parchment inside. The writing was elegant, scripted in black ink that had a reddish tint under the light. "Dear Monsieur Poirot, I implore your genius. A crimson letter haunts my family, bearing secrets that could destroy us all. Meet me at the Crimson Rose Café in Soho at noon today. Come alone. Your discretion is vital. Signed, Lady Evelyn Hawthorne." Who was Lady Evelyn Hawthorne? Poirot pondered as he stroked his moustache. He recalled vague society gossip. A wealthy widow from an old English family, recently returned from travels abroad, whispered to be entangled in some scandal involving her late husband's estate. But a crimson letter. It evoked memories of Nathaniel Hawthorne's tale of sin and shame. Yet this felt more sinister, more personal. Poirot decided he must go. His curiosity was piqued, and he never ignored a cry for help wrapped in such mystery. As the clock struck 11, Poirot donned his finest overcoat, polished his shoes to a mirror shine, and hailed a cab to Soho. The streets were bustling with artists, writers, and the occasional shady character lurking in alleys. The Crimson Rose Café was a quaint spot, tucked away on a side street, its sign a painted rose dripping red petals. Inside, the air was thick with the aroma of fresh coffee and pastries. Poirot scanned the room. A few couples murmuring over tea, an elderly man reading a newspaper, and there, in the corner booth, a veiled woman in a dark green dress, her gloved hands fidgeting with a napkin. "Madame Hawthorne." Poirot approached with a polite bow. She lifted her veil slightly, revealing striking blue eyes shadowed by worry lines. "Monsieur Poirot, thank God you've come. Please, sit. I fear we're being watched." Her voice was a whisper, trembling like a leaf in the wind. Poirot settled, across from her, ordering a small black coffee to steady his thoughts. "Tell me everything, madame. What is this crimson letter that torments you?" Lady Evelyn took a deep breath, her fingers tracing the edge of her teacup. "It began 3 weeks ago, after my husband's funeral. Sir Reginald Hawthorne died suddenly. Heart failure, the doctors said, but I suspect poison. He was a man of many enemies, you see, from his business dealings in the colonies. The first crimson letter arrived anonymously, accusing him of terrible things, embezzlement, affairs, even murder. It demanded I pay a large sum or the secrets would be revealed to the press. I ignored it at first, thinking it a cruel hoax. But then more letters came, each one more detailed, more damning. They mentioned private matters only Reginald and I knew, like the hidden safe in our manor house, or the ruby necklace he gave me on our anniversary, stained with what the letter called the blood of innocence. Poirot leaned forward, his eyes gleaming. "And you have these letters with you?" She nodded, sliding a small bundle across the table, tied with a red ribbon. There were 5 in total, each on the same crimson paper, the writing identical. Poirot examined them closely. "See here, madame, the ink has a unique hue, not standard. Perhaps iron gall mixed with red dye, and the postmarks, all from different London districts, posted at night. This blackmailer is clever, moving about to avoid detection." Lady Evelyn's face paled. "There's more. Last night I received a 6th letter. It threatened my daughter Amelia. She's only 18, away at boarding school. It said if I don't pay by midnight tomorrow, she'll suffer the consequences of her father's sins." Examples of the letter's cruelty flashed in Poirot's mind. One read, "Your husband stole from orphans in India, leaving them to starve. The crimson letter bears their blood." Another, "The affair with the maid. Did you know she vanished? Pay, or the world will." Practical tips for handling such threats. Poirot knew from experience, never pay the first demand, as it only invites more. Document everything and seek professional help immediately. But this case felt layered, like an onion with rotten cores. As they spoke, Poirot noticed a man at the counter glancing their way too often, a tall fellow in a trench coat, hat pulled low. "Madame, we must be cautious. I will take your case. Return home and lock your doors. I shall investigate starting with your husband's associates. Tell me, who benefited from his death?" Lady Evelyn listed names. His business partner, Mr. Victor Langston, a shady lawyer named Elias Crowe, and a distant cousin, Harold Hawthorne, who inherited a portion of the estate. "Harold always resented Reginald," she added. "He claimed the family fortune was cursed by some ancient scandal." Poirot nodded, his brain whirring. This was no simple blackmail. It hinted at deeper motives, revenge perhaps, or a cover-up. As Lady Evelyn prepared to leave, she whispered, "Thank you, Monsieur Poirot. I feel safer already." He watched her exit, then signalled the waiter for the bill. But as he reached for his wallet, a chill ran down his spine. Slipped under his saucer was another crimson envelope addressed to him. Inside, "Stay away, detective, or the crimson will stain your hands too." Wrapping up this opening chapter, we've met our hero, uncovered the initial mystery, and felt the first twinge of danger. Poirot's adventure is just beginning, with clues pointing to a web of deceit. Stay tuned for Chapter 2, where Poirot delves into the Hawthorne manor and uncovers hidden secrets that could change everything. Chapter 2. Shadows in the Hawthorne Manor. Hercule Poirot stepped out of the Crimson Rose Café, the latest crimson envelope tucked securely in his coat pocket. The London fog curled around him like a conspirator as he hailed a cab to Hawthorne Manor, Lady Evelyn's sprawling estate on the outskirts of the city. His mind buzzed with questions. Who had slipped that threatening note under his saucer, and how did they know he was meeting Lady Evelyn? The game was afoot, and Poirot's little grey cells were already piecing together the puzzle. His mission now was to explore the manor, the heart of Sir Reginald's world, to uncover clues about the blackmailer's identity and their motives. The cab rattled through the city, and Poirot prepared himself for what secrets the old house might hold. The manor loomed at the end of a long gravel driveway, its grey stone walls draped in ivy like a widow's veil. Gothic arches and tall windows gave it a brooding air, as if it guarded its secrets jealously. Poirot knocked, and a stern-faced butler named Graves answered, his eyes narrowing at the detective's polished appearance. "Monsieur Poirot, lady, Evelyn is expecting you. Follow me." The entrance hall was grand but cold, with portraits of stern hawthorns glaring down from the walls. A massive chandelier hung overhead, its crystals catching the dim light like frozen tears. Poirot noted the dust on the frames. Money was tight, perhaps, despite the family's wealth. Lady Evelyn had given Poirot permission to search Sir Reginald's study, the place where he spent most of his time before his sudden death. Graves led him to a heavy oak door on the second floor, unlocking it with a key from a chain around his neck. Sir Reginald was particular about this room, Graves said, his voice flat. No one entered without his say-so. Poirot stepped inside, taking in the scent of old leather and cigar smoke. The study was a treasure trove of potential clues. A mahogany desk cluttered with papers, a bookshelf stuffed with ledgers, and a fireplace with ashes still warm. A portrait of Sir Reginald hung above the mantel, his eyes sharp and calculating, as if watching Poirot's every move. Poirot began his methodical search, starting with the desk. He sifted through invoices, letters, and contracts, noting Sir Reginald's dealings with colonial trade, spices, textiles, and rare gems. One document caught his eye, a contract with Victor Langston, the business partner Lady Evelyn mentioned, detailing a risky venture in India that had soured. Scribbled in the margin was a single word in Sir Reginald's hand. Betrayed. Poirot's moustache twitched. A motive, perhaps. Monsieur Langston, you intrigue me. He moved to the bookshelf, pulling out a ledger labelled Private Accounts. Inside were cryptic entries, payments to an EC in large sums, dated just before Sir Reginald's death. Could this be Elias Crowe, the lawyer, or someone else entirely? Next, Poirot examined the fireplace. Among the ashes, he found a scrap of crimson paper, half burned but unmistakable. Using tweezers, he retrieved it, revealing a fragment of handwriting. The truth of the ruby. The rest was charred beyond reading. Mon Dieu, another crimson letter, destroyed to hide its secrets, Poirot murmured. He recalled Lady Evelyn's mention of a ruby necklace tied to the blackmail. Was it more than a sentimental gift? He made a mental note to ask her about it later. Then, his eyes caught a faint outline on the wall beside the fireplace. A hidden panel, perhaps? With careful pressure, he found a loose brick that clicked open, revealing a small safe. The lock was intricate, but Poirot, no stranger to such devices, noted its combination style. He'd need more time to crack it. As he continued his search, the door creaked open, and a young man stepped in. Harold Hawthorne, the cousin who inherited part of the estate. Harold was lanky, with a nervous energy and eyes that darted like a cornered animal. "What are you doing in my cousin's study?" he demanded, his voice sharp. Poirot smiled calmly. "Monsieur Harold, I am Hercule Poirot, engaged by Lady Evelyn to investigate a delicate matter. You, I believe, have an interest in this manor's secrets, no?" Harold flushed, stammering. I just came to collect some books. Reginald owed me, you know. The family fortune's cursed, always has been." Poirot noted the defensiveness. "Cursed, you say? Tell me more." Harold hesitated, then muttered, "About an old family legend. A scandal from a century ago, involving a stolen ruby, and a death that stained the Hawthorne name. It's why I never trusted Reginald. He was too secretive." Poirot's questions were interrupted by a sudden noise, a crash from downstairs. He and Harold rushed to the hall, where Graves stood over a shattered vase, his face pale. "I saw someone outside the window," the butler whispered. "A shadow, watching." Poirot peered out, but saw only the fog. "Describe this shadow, monsieur." Graves shook his head. Tall, cloaked, gone in a blink. Poirot's mind raced. Could it be the same man from the cafe? He instructed Graves to secure the manor and decided to focus on the safe next. Harold, still rattled, excused himself, claiming a headache. For viewers wondering how to spot clues like Poirot, consider this. Observation is key. Notice small details, out-of-place items, nervous tics, or inconsistencies in stories. In this case, the burned crimson paper and the safe suggest someone in the manor is hiding something big. Another tip: when investigating, always secure evidence safely, like Poirot did with the paper scrap, to avoid tampering. He slipped the fragment into a small envelope, labeling it for later analysis. As Poirot prepared to leave the study, he felt the weight of the crimson envelope from the cafe in his pocket. The threat against him was real, but it only sharpened his resolve. The manor held answers, and he was determined to find them. Harold's talk of a cursed fortune, the mysterious EC, and the hidden safe were threads in a tapestry of deceit. He'd need to speak with Lady Evelyn again and track down Victor Langston and Elias Crowe. But first, that safe demanded his attention. It might hold the key to the Crimson Letter's origins. This chapter closes with Poirot standing in the study, the manor's shadows lengthening around him. The clues are piling up, but so are the dangers. What lies behind the safe's lock? And who is the cloaked figure stalking the estate? Stay tuned for Chapter 3, where Poirot cracks open new secrets and faces a chilling discovery. Chapter 3. The Safe's Dark Secret. Hercule Poirot stood in the dimly lit study of Hawthorne Manor, his eyes fixed on the hidden safe behind the fireplace. The air felt heavy with secrets, and the faint echo of the crashed vase downstairs lingered in his mind. He knew the safe held answers, perhaps the source of the crimson letters or proof of Sir Reginald's misdeeds. With the manor's eerie silence pressing in, Poirot set to work, his nimble fingers testing the safe's combination lock. His little grey cells buzzed, piecing together the clues: the burned scrap of crimson paper, Harold's talk of a cursed family fortune, and the shadowy figure lurking outside. This chapter dives into Poirot's next steps as he unlocks new truths and edges closer to the blackmailer's identity. Poirot's method for cracking safes was as meticulous as his moustache. He listened for the faint clicks of the tumblers, turning the dial with precision. After several tense minutes, a soft clunk signaled success. The safe door swung open, revealing a velvet-lined interior. Inside were 3 items: a small leather journal, a ruby pendant that gleamed like a drop of blood, and a folded letter, not crimson, but plain cream paper, sealed with a broken wax seal. Poirot's heart quickened. Mon Dieu, this pendant. Could it be the ruby necklace Lady Evelyn spoke of? And this letter, perhaps a clue to the blackmailer's game. He carefully placed the items on the desk, noting the journal's worn cover and the pendant's intricate gold setting, engraved with the initials R.H., Reginald Hawthorne, no doubt. He opened the journal first. Its pages were filled with Sir Reginald's tight, precise handwriting, detailing transactions and meetings. One entry, dated a month before his death, read, "Met E.C. at the docks. He demands more for his silence. The ruby is the key. Must protect it at all costs." Another entry mentioned Victor Langston. "VL suspects the truth. If he talks, all is lost." Poirot's moustache twitched. E.C. again. This is no coincidence. And the ruby, what truth does it hide? The journal also hinted at a trip to India years ago, where Sir Reginald acquired the ruby under questionable circumstances. Could it be stolen, tied to the orphans, mentioned in the crimson letters? Next, Poirot examined the letter. It was addressed to Sir Reginald from an unnamed sender, written in a hurried scrawl. "You thought you could bury the past, but I know what happened in Calcutta. The ruby's curse follows you. Pay me, or I tell all." The letter was unsigned, but the tone matched the crimson letter's menace. Poirot frowned. This is older, perhaps the first demand. The blackmailer started with ordinary paper before the dramatic crimson. Why the change? He slipped the letter and journal into his satchel for safekeeping, knowing they were vital evidence. The ruby pendant intrigued him most. Holding it to the light, he noticed a faint scratch on the stone, almost like a symbol, a tiny thorn, matching the wax seal on the crimson envelopes. A connection, oui. This ruby is no mere jewel. It is a symbol of guilt. Poirot recalled Lady Evelyn's story of the necklace, supposedly a gift from Sir Reginald. Had he lied about its origins? Was it tied to the blood of innocence the letters mentioned? He needed to confront Lady Evelyn about this. But first, he wanted to track down Elias Crowe, the lawyer whose initials kept appearing. As Poirot closed the safe, a floorboard creaked behind him. He spun around to find Graves, the butler, standing in the doorway, his face unreadable. "Monsieur Poirot, Lady Evelyn requests your presence in the drawing room. She's upset." Poirot nodded, sensing Graves's unease. "Merci, Graves. I shall come at once. Tell me, did you ever see Sir Reginald with this pendant?" He held up the ruby, watching the butler's reaction. Graves's eyes flickered, but he shook his head. "Not that I recall, sir. He kept his treasures private." Poirot smiled thinly. "Of course. Lead the way." In the drawing room, Lady Evelyn sat by a roaring fire, her hands trembling as she clutched a telegram. "Monsieur Poirot, it's Amelia, my daughter. This just arrived from her school. She's gone missing." Her voice broke, and Poirot's heart sank. The telegram was brief. "Amelia Hawthorne left the dormitory last night. No trace. Police informed." Poirot's mind raced. The crimson letter's threat against Amelia was no bluff. "Madame, we must act swiftly." Do you know anyone who might wish to harm her? A rival, a spurned ally of your husband?" Lady Evelyn shook her head, tears falling. "Only those letters. They mentioned her, said she'd pay for Reginald's sins." Poirot's thoughts turned to practical steps. In cases of missing persons, he knew time was critical. First, verify the last known location, Amelia's school. Second, interview witnesses, like her roommates or teachers. Third, trace any unusual visitors or letters she received. He advised Lady Evelyn to contact the school for more details and to alert the police to check train stations and ports. "And Madame, tell me about this ruby necklace. Was it truly a gift, or did Sir Reginald hide its origins?" Lady Evelyn looked stunned, then admitted, "He gave it to me years ago, said it was from a dealer in London. But he was secretive about it. I thought it was just his way." As they spoke, Poirot noticed a flicker of movement outside the window, a shadow, just as Graves described. He excused himself and stepped onto the terrace, but the fog swallowed any sign of the intruder. Back inside, he resolved to visit Elias, Crow's office in London the next morning. The lawyer might hold answers about E.C. and the rubies past. He also planned to investigate Victor Langston, whose name kept surfacing in suspicious contexts. For viewers following along, here's a tip from Poirot's playbook. When evidence mounts, cross-reference it. The journal, letter and ruby all point to a scandal in India. Write down recurring names or places to spot patterns. Another tip: trust your instincts about people's reactions. Graves' flicker of recognition at the ruby suggests he knows more than he admits. Secure evidence, like Poirot's satchel of clues, to prevent tampering. This chapter ends with Poirot leaving the drawing room, the ruby pendant heavy in his pocket. Amelia's disappearance raises the stakes, and the shadow outside hints at a closer threat. The safe has revealed its secrets, but they only deepen the mystery. In Chapter 4, Poirot heads to London to confront Elias Crow and uncovers a shocking link to the Crimson Letter's origins. Stay tuned for the next twist. Chapter 4. The Lawyers Tangled. Webb Hercule Poirot stepped into the crisp London morning, the ruby pendant and Sir Reginald's journal safely tucked in his satchel. The fog had lifted, revealing a city buzzing with purpose, but Poirot's mind was focused on one destination: the office of Elias Crow, the lawyer whose initials haunted the clues. Amelia's disappearance gnawed at him, and the shadow outside Hawthorne Manor suggested the blackmailer was closing in. Today he aimed to unravel Crow's role in the Crimson Letter mystery and uncover any ties to the ruby's dark past. With his cane tapping the pavement, Poirot navigated the bustling streets to Lincoln's Inn, where Crow's law firm awaited. The office was a narrow, imposing building, its brass plaque reading Crow and Associates Solicitors. Inside, the air smelled of ink and old paper, and a young clerk with ink-stained fingers ushered Poirot to Crow's private office. Elias Crow was a wiry man in his 50s, with sharp eyes and a smile that didn't reach them. "Monsieur Poirot, a pleasure," he said, gesturing to a leather chair. "To what do I owe the visit?" Poirot noted the lawyer's polished demeanour, too polished, perhaps. "Monsieur Crow, I am investigating a matter for Lady Evelyn Hawthorne. You were Sir Reginald's solicitor, oui? I seek information about his business dealings, particularly in India." Crow's smile faltered, just for a moment. Reginald, a valued client. His affairs were complex, Trade, investments, you know. India was profitable, but messy. Why do you ask? Poirot leaned forward, his voice calm but piercing. A ruby pendant, monsieur. It appears in documents tied to blackmail. And your initials, EC, appear in Sir Reginald's journal, linked to payments for silence. Care to explain? Crow's fingers tightened on his pen. Payments? Preposterous. I handled his contracts, nothing more. As for India, he bought that ruby legally from a merchant in Calcutta. I have papers to prove it. Crow produced a file from a locked drawer, handing Poirot a yellowed bill of sale dated 1925. It described a ruby pendant sold to Sir Reginald by a merchant named Arjun Patel for a hefty sum. See? All above board, Crow said. But Poirot noticed the paper's edges were frayed, as if handled often. And yet, monsieur, letters accuse Sir Reginald of theft and worse. This ruby, it seems, carries a curse. Tell me about this Patel. Crow shrugged. Dead years ago. Heart attack, I believe. Reginald was shaken by it. Poirot's little grey cells hummed. Another sudden death, like Sir Reginald's. Coincidence? Sensing Crow's evasiveness, Poirot shifted tactics. You knew of the crimson letters, no? Blackmail threats sent to Lady Evelyn. One mentioned a safe in the manor, which you, as his solicitor, likely knew about. Crow's face hardened. I know nothing of blackmail. Reginald had enemies, business rivals, jealous cousins like Harold. Ask them. Poirot smiled thinly. I shall. But first, tell me about Victor Langston. Sir Reginald wrote of betrayal in his journal. Crow hesitated, then said, Langston was his partner in the India venture. They fell out over profits. Langston's a rough sort, runs a shipping firm now, lives in Mayfair. Poirot's search for truth was interrupted by a commotion outside. The clerk burst in, breathless. Mr. Crow, there's a parcel for you. Bright. Red, no sender's name. Poirot's heart skipped. Show me, quickly! The clerk returned with a crimson envelope, identical to the ones haunting Lady Evelyn. Crow's hands trembled as he opened it, revealing a note. You kept his secrets, lawyer. Now they bury you. Pay, or the ruby's truth comes out. Poirot seized the note, noting the same reddish-black ink and thorn seal. Monsieur Crow, you are a target now. Speak plainly. What do you know of this ruby's truth? Crow slumped, his composure cracking. All right, Poirot. Reginald told me the ruby was acquired, not bought. He took it from a temple in Calcutta during a dispute with locals. Patel, the merchant, helped cover it up for a cut. After Patel died, someone started asking questions. Anonymous notes, demands for money. Reginald paid at first through me to keep it quiet. But I swear, I don't know who's behind it now. Poirot's eyes gleamed. And these payments, they went to whom? Crow shook his head. A postbox in East London, no name. I stopped when Reginald died. This was a breakthrough, but Poirot needed more. He pressed Crow for details on the postbox's location and any contacts tied to the India venture. Crow provided an address in Whitechapel and a name. Leela Patel, Arjun's daughter, who had vanished after her father's death. She might know something, Crow admitted. Reginald feared she'd come for revenge. Poirot filed this away, planning to investigate Leila next. He also noted Crow's nervous tick, fidgeting with a ring on his left hand. Was it guilt or fear? As he left Crow's office, Poirot felt the weight of the new crimson letter. The blackmailer was bold, delivering threats in broad daylight, He decided to visit the Whitechapel postbox next, hoping to trace the blackmailer's trail. But first, he needed to check on Lady Evelyn and any updates on Amelia's disappearance. The ruby's theft from a temple added a new layer. Revenge, not just greed, might drive the blackmailer. This chapter closes with Poirot stepping back into London's streets, the crimson letters warning echoing in his mind. Crow's confession ties the ruby to a crime in India. But who is pulling the strings now? In Chapter 5, Poirot hunts for Lila Patel and uncovers a chilling clue that brings him closer to the blackmailer's identity. Stay tuned for the next twist. Chapter 5. The Trail to Whitechapel. Hercule Poirot adjusted his hat as he stepped out of Elias Crow's office, the latest crimson letter burning a metaphorical hole in his satchel. The lawyer's confession about the ruby's theft from a Calcutta temple had shifted the case. Revenge, not just blackmail, was at play. With Amelia Hawthorne still missing and a shadowy figure stalking the manor, time was slipping away. Poirot's next move was to track down the Whitechapel postbox Crow, mentioned where Sir Reginald's payments had been sent. It was a slim lead, but Poirot's little grey cells thrived on such threads. He hailed a cab, directing it to the gritty streets of East London, determined to find Lila Patel, the merchant's daughter, and uncover her role in the crimson letter. Mystery. The cab wound through London's bustling heart, past grand squares and into Whitechapel's narrower, smokier lanes. The air here carried the tang of coal and the murmur of crowded tenements. Poirot disembarked near a small post office, its faded sign barely legible. The postbox in question, number 47, was a rusted metal box tucked in a corner, its slot worn from frequent use. Poirot examined it closely, noting no fingerprints but a faint smudge of red wax on the edge, like the thorn-sealed envelopes. Mon Dieu, the blackmailer has been here, he murmured, his moustache twitching. He needed more. Perhaps the postmaster knew who collected from this box. Inside the post office, a grizzled man with a limp, Mr. Jenkins, sat behind the counter, sorting letters. Number 47. Aye, it's rented, but I don't ask names. Fellow, comes every week, tall, always wears a scarf over his face, pays cash, no questions. Poirot pressed for details. This man, his build, his voice, anything distinctive. Jenkins scratched his chin. Deep voice, bit posh, wore a dark coat, gloves, never showed his hands. Last came 3 days ago. Poirot's mind flashed to the cloaked figure at the manor and the man at the cafe. The same person. He thanked Jenkins, slipping him a shilling for his trouble, and made a note to have the police monitor the postbox. Lila Patel's name was the next puzzle piece. Crow had said she vanished after her father's death, possibly seeking revenge for the ruby's theft. Poirot visited a nearby pub, the Rusty Anchor, known for its gossip. The barman, a burly man named Tom, leaned in when Poirot mentioned Lila. Patel's daughter. Heard she's back in London working as a seamstress in Spitalfields. Keeps to herself. Lives above a tailor's shop on Brick Lane. Folks say she's got a grudge against some rich toff. Something about her dad's death. Poirot's eyes gleamed. Merci, monsieur. You have been most helpful. Brick Lane was a short walk, alive with market stalls and the chatter of vendors. The tailor's shop was modest, its window displaying neatly stitched dresses. Poirot climbed a rickety staircase to the flat above and knocked. A woman in her late 20s answered, her dark eyes wary. Her features were striking, with a hint of her Indian heritage, and her hands bore the calluses of needlework. Miss Lila Patel? Poirot asked, bowing slightly. I am Hercule Poirot, investigating a matter tied to Sir Reginald Hawthorne. May we speak? Lila's face tightened, but she nodded, letting him inside a small, tidy room with a sewing machine and bolts of fabric. I know of Hawthorne, Lila said, her voice low. My father, Arjun, died because of him. That ruby, he stole it from a temple, and when my father helped cover it up, he paid with his life. A heart attack, they said, but I think it was poison. I was 16, left with nothing. Poirot listened, noting her controlled anger. And the crimson letters, mademoiselle? Are they your doing? Lila's eyes flashed. No. I'd rather face my enemies directly. But I've heard whispers. Someone else knows about the ruby. Someone who worked with my father. They're using it to hurt the Hawthorns. And I say, let them burn. Poirot probed further, asking about her father's associates. Leela mentioned a man named Sanjay Rao, a former clerk who vanished after Arjun's death. He was angry, said the ruby was cursed, brought death to anyone who touched it. If anyone's sending those letters, it could be him. She gave Poirot an old address for Rao in Bethnal Green, though she warned he might have moved. Poirot thanked her, sensing truth in her words but also a guarded edge. Had she truly abandoned revenge, or was she playing a deeper game? As he left, Poirot noticed a young boy loitering across the street, watching him intently. The boy bolted when, spotted, disappearing into an alley. Another shadow, Poirot muttered, his instincts prickling. He decided to pursue Sanjay Rao's lead next, but first he telephoned Lady Evelyn to check on her and Amelia. She reported no news on her daughter, though the police had found Amelia's scarf near a train station, raising fears of abduction. Poirot reassured her, promising to follow every clue. This chapter ends with Poirot on Brick Lane, the address for Sanjay Rao in hand. Lila's story ties the ruby to a temple theft and her father's death, but the mysterious boy and the postbox smudge hint at a closer threat. In Chapter 6, Poirot hunts for Rao and stumbles into a dangerous encounter that changes the case's course. Stay tuned for the next twist. Chapter 6. The Ghost of Sanjay Rao Hercule. Poirot stood on the bustling corner of Brick Lane, the address for Sanjay Rao clutched in his gloved hand. The encounter with Lila Patel had sharpened his focus. The ruby's theft from a Calcutta temple and her father's suspicious death pointed to a motive rooted in vengeance. With Amelia Hawthorne still missing and a mysterious boy watching his every move, Poirot felt the net of danger tightening. His next target was Sanjay Rao, the former clerk who might be the key to the crimson letters. Bethnal Green, Rao's last known haunt, awaited, and Poirot's little grey cells were alight with anticipation. He hailed a cab, determined to track down this ghost from the past and uncover his role in the blackmailer's scheme. Bethnal Green was a maze of narrow streets and sagging tenements, the air thick with the smell of coal smoke and street food. The address Lila provided led to a dilapidated boarding house, its windows boarded up like closed eyes. Poirot knocked, and a weary landlady, Mrs. Baxter, answered, her apron stained with grease. Sanjay Rao. Haven't seen him in years, she said, eyeing Poirot's polished shoes suspiciously. He lived here in 29, maybe 30. Quiet man, always scribbling in a notebook. Left suddenly, no forwarding address. Poirot pressed. Her. Did he have visitors? Anyone unusual? Mrs. Baxter frowned. Once, a posh gent came looking for him. Tall, dark coat, scarf over his face, didn't leave a name. Poirot's pulse quickened. The description matched the shadowy figure. From the manner and the postbox collector Jenkins described. This man, madame, did he seem threatening? Mrs. Baxter shrugged. Didn't stay long enough to tell, but Rao looked scared after, packed up soon after. She recalled Rao worked odd jobs at a nearby printer's shop before vanishing. Poirot thanked her, slipping her a coin, and headed to the printer's, a cramped establishment called Griffin's Press, just down the street. The shop was a clutter of ink-stained machines and paper stacks, the air heavy with the tang of chemicals. The owner, Mr. Griffin, a stout man with a limp, confirmed Rao's brief employment. Sanjay was good with the presses, especially custom jobs, fancy paper, coloured inks. Left without notice, though. Said something about settling an old score. Poirot's moustache twitched. Custom paper, you say? Perhaps a deep crimson with reddish-black ink? Griffin's eyes widened. How do you know? He ordered a batch of that. Paid up front. Said it was for a personal project. Poirot's mind raced. Rao had the means to create the crimson letters. Was he the blackmailer? Griffin rummaged through a drawer and produced a sample of the crimson paper, identical to the envelopes. Kept this as a keepsake. Sanjay was proud of it. Said it was the colour of justice. Poirot examined the sheet, noting its texture matched the letters perfectly. He asked for Rao's last known contacts, and Griffin mentioned a local cafe, the Sparrow's Nest, where Rao met a friend weekly. Don't know the friend's name, but he was Indian too, older, wore a turban. Poirot pocketed the paper, sample, planning to visit the cafe next. At the Sparrow's Nest, a cosy spot with chipped teacups and faded curtains, Poirot questioned the waitress, a sharp-eyed girl named Molly. Sanjay. Haven't seen him in ages, but his mate, Vikram, still comes in, sits in the back, always reading. She pointed to an elderly man in a turban, hunched over a newspaper. Poirot approached, introducing himself. Monsieur Vikram, I seek Sanjay Rao regarding a matter of great importance. You were his friend, oui? Vikram's face clouded. Sanjay's gone, left London last year, said he was done with the past. He was angry, though, about a man named Hawthorne. Blamed him for ruining his life. Vikram shared that Sanjay had worked for Arjun Patel in Calcutta, handling accounts for the Ruby deal. When Arjun died, Sanjay lost everything, his job, his home. He thought Hawthorne poisoned Arjun to cover up the theft. Sanjay wanted justice, talked about making someone pay. Poirot leaned forward. And these crimson letters, did he ever mention them? Vikram hesitated, then nodded. He showed me one, said it was a warning to Hawthorne's family, but he swore he stopped sending them after Hawthorne died. Someone else took over, he said. Someone crueler. This was a bombshell. If Sanjay wasn't the current blackmailer, who was? Poirot pressed for more, but Vikram knew little else, only that Sanjay had moved north, possibly to Leeds. As Poirot jotted down notes, he noticed a man at the cafe's entrance. Tall, dark coat, scarf over his face. The figure locked eyes with Poirot, then slipped out. Poirot gave chase, but the man vanished into an alley. Frustrated, Poirot returned to find Vikram gone, leaving only his newspaper behind. A circled article caught Poirot's eye. A report on a missing girl, Amelia Hawthorne. Scrawled in the margin was a single word, Ruby. For viewers sleuthing alongside Poirot, here's a tip. Follow the materials. The crimson paper's origin at Griffin's Press ties Sanjay to the letters, but his absence suggests a new player. Track unique items, like custom paper or ink, to their source. Another tip: don't ignore bystanders. Vikram's hesitation and quick exit hint at fear or guilt. Always question why someone avoids the truth. Poirot left the cafe, his mind swirling. Sanjay Rao had crafted the crimson letters, but someone else was using them now, targeting Amelia. The scarf-faced man was a constant shadow, always one step ahead. Poirot decided to telephone Lady Evelyn for updates on Amelia and to alert the police about the Whitechapel postbox and the cafe. The ruby's curse was no myth. It was a trail of betrayal and death, and Poirot was closing in. This chapter ends with Poirot on the streets of Bethnal Green, the crimson paper sample in his satchel. Sanjay Rao's role is clearer, but the new blackmailer remains a phantom. In Chapter 7, Poirot follows a lead to Victor Langston's shipping firm and faces a confrontation that threatens to unravel everything. Stay tuned for the next twist. Chapter 7. The shipping magnate's secrets, Hercule Poirot, stood on the gritty pavement of Bethnal Green, the crimson paper sample from Griffin's Press tucked in his satchel. Its weight, a reminder of Sanjay Rao's role in the early blackmail. Letters. The revelation that someone else had taken up the crimson mantle, combined with Amelia Hawthorne's ongoing disappearance, fueled Poirot's determination. The circled article with Ruby scrawled in the margin pointed to a deeper connection, and the elusive scarf-faced man haunted his steps. Now, Poirot turned his attention to Victor Langston, Sir Reginald's former business partner, whose name surfaced in journals and accusations of betrayal. Heading to Langston's shipping firm in Mayfair, Poirot aimed to uncover his link to the ruby and the crimson letters. His little grey cells buzzed as he hailed a cab, ready to confront a man who might hold the key to the mystery. Mayfair's polished streets contrasted sharply with Whitechapel's grit, with elegant townhouses and gleaming shopfronts. Langston's firm, Langston Shipping Co., occupied a grand building with a marble foyer and a brass sign proclaiming "Global Trade since 1920. Poirot was ushered into a plush office where Victor Langston awaited, a broad-shouldered man in his 40s with a ruddy face and a cigar clamped between his teeth. His eyes narrowed at Poirot's meticulous appearance. "Monsieur Poirot, the famous detective. What brings you to my doorstep? Something about Reginald Hawthorne, I presume." His tone was gruff, but Poirot caught a flicker of unease. "Précisément, Monsieur Langston," Poirot said, settling into a chair. "I investigate a matter of blackmail involving crimson letters and a ruby pendant. Your name appears in Sir Reginald's journal with a note about betrayal. Care to enlighten me?" Langston's jaw tightened, and he stubbed out his cigar. "Reginald was a fool. We partnered in India, spices, gems, big money. But he cut corners, made enemies. That ruby? He bragged about snatching it from a temple. I warned him it'd bring trouble, but he laughed it off. When the deal went sour, he blamed me, cut me out. I lost a fortune." Poirot leaned forward, his voice calm but sharp. "And these enemies? Did they include Sanjay Rao or Laila Patel? Or perhaps someone sending threatening letters?" Langston snorted. "Rao was a clerk, harmless. Laila, I barely knew. As for letters, I got one myself last week. Crimson, like you said. Demanded money, or they'd expose my role in Reginald's schemes. I burned it. I don't bow to blackmailers." Poirot's moustache twitched. You burned evidence, monsieur? Most unwise. Did it mention the ruby or Amelia Hawthorne? Langston hesitated. It mentioned a cursed gem and said the Hawthornes would pay in blood. I thought it was a bluff. Sensing Langston was holding back, Poirot pressed further. Your falling out with Sir Reginald, what caused it? Langston leaned back, his eyes cold. He hid profits, cheated investors. I found out and threatened to go public. He paid me off to keep quiet, but it wasn't enough. After he died, I heard rumors. Poison, not a heart attack. I've got no love for the Hawthornes, but I'm no killer. Poirot noted the defensiveness, reminiscent of Elias Crow's. And where were you 3 nights ago, when Amelia Hawthorne vanished? Langston's face reddened. At my club, with witnesses. Check if you like. Poirot's search was interrupted by a commotion at the office door. A young secretary burst in, holding a crimson envelope. Mr. Langston, this was just delivered. No. Sender! Poirot seized it before Langston could, noting the familiar thorn seal. Inside was a note. The ruby's curse claims another. Amelia is only the start. Pay, or you're next. Poirot's heart sank. The threat was escalating, and Amelia's safety was in peril. Monsieur Langston, you must keep this. The police will need it. Tell me, have you seen a tall man, scarf over his face, near your office? Langston shook his head, but his eyes darted to the window, as if expecting a shadow. Poirot decided to inspect Langston's records for clues. With grudging permission, he sifted through files in a back room, finding a ledger from the India venture. It listed payments to S.R., likely Sanjay Rao, for services rendered in 1925, around the ruby's theft. Another entry noted a shipment of special paper ordered by Rao in 1930, matching the crimson stock. So, Rao supplied the means, but who uses it now? Poirot murmured. He also found a letter from Sir Reginald to Langston, dated a week before his death. Victor, the past catches up. The ruby's owner seeks revenge. Watch your back. The owner intrigued Poirot. Was it Lila, Sanjay, or someone else? As he left the office, Poirot noticed a familiar figure across the street, the same boy from Brick Lane, watching from an alley. This time Poirot was quicker, catching the boy's arm before he could flee. Mon petit, why do you follow me? The boy, no older than 12, squirmed. A man paid me, a quid to watch you and report back. Tall, scarf over his face. Didn't give a name. Poirot released him, slipping him a shilling to stay quiet. The scarf-faced man was orchestrating a surveillance network. But why? For viewers unraveling mysteries like Poirot, here's a tip. Cross-check alibis. Langston's claim of being at his club needs verification. Witnesses can lie or be bought. Another tip. Trace the paper trail. The ledger's mention of crimson. Paper links back to Rao, but the new letters suggest a copycat. Keep physical evidence, unlike Langston's burned note, for forensic analysis. Poirot left Mayfair, the new crimson letter in his satchel. Langston's story confirmed the rubies, stolen origins, and hinted at a vengeful owner. With Amelia's fate uncertain, Poirot planned to alert the police about the boy's sighting and check Langston's alibi. The scarf-faced man was the key, but his identity remained elusive. In Chapter 8, Poirot returns to Hawthorne Manor and uncovers a hidden truth about the ruby that shifts the entire case. Stay tuned for the next twist. Chapter 8. The Manor's Hidden. Truth. Hercule Poirot sat in a cab rattling back toward Hawthorne Manor, the latest crimson letter and Victor Langston's revelations weighing heavily in his satchel. The shipping magnate's admission about the way Ruby's theft and the mysterious owner seeking revenge had deepened the mystery, while the boy's report of the scarf-faced man confirmed a watchful enemy. Amelia Hawthorne's disappearance remained a pressing concern, her scarf found near a train station hinting at foul play. Poirot's little grey cells churned, connecting the ruby, the letters, and the shadowy figure. Returning to the manor, he aimed to confront Lady Evelyn about the ruby pendant's true origins and search for clues tying the blackmailer to the estate. The fog was creeping back over London as he arrived, and the manor's Gothic silhouette loomed like a silent witness. Stepping into the entrance hall, Poirot was greeted by Graves, the butler, whose stiff posture betrayed unease. "Lady Evelyn is in the library, Monsieur Poirot. She's been distraught since the telegram about Miss Amelia." Poirot nodded, noting the butler's quick glance toward the staircase. "Merci, Graves. Tell me, have any strangers visited the manor recently? A tall man, perhaps, with a scarf?" Graves shook his head, too quickly. "No, sir, only family and staff." Poirot's moustache twitched. He sensed deception, but pressed. On to the library, where Lady Evelyn sat by a window, clutching a photograph of her daughter. "Madame, we must speak of the ruby pendant," Poirot began, his tone gentle but firm. "You said it was a gift from Sir Reginald, but I have learned it was stolen from a temple in Calcutta. Did you know its true origins?" Lady Evelyn's eyes widened, her hands trembling. "Stolen? No, he never told me. He said it was a rare find, bought legally." "Oh, Reginald, what have you done?" Her distress seemed genuine, but Poirot pressed further. "The crimson letters mention blood of innocence tied to the ruby. Could this be about lives lost in its theft?" She shook her head, tears falling. "I only know he became secretive after India. He locked that pendant in his study, said it was for my safety." Determined to uncover more, Poirot requested to revisit Sir Reginald's study. Lady Evelyn agreed, and Graves led him upstairs, lingering at the door. Inside, Poirot focused on the portrait of Sir Reginald above the mantel, its piercing eyes seeming to follow him. On a hunch, he examined the frame closely, noticing a slight irregularity, a hidden catch. With a gentle press, the portrait swung open, revealing a small compartment. Inside was a single document, a faded letter from 1925, written in Hindi with an English translation attached. It read, "To Reginald Hawthorne, the ruby you took from Cayley's temple carries her curse. Return it, or death will follow you, and yours." Signed, Priestess Angeli. Poirot's heart raced. Mon Dieu, a curse from a priestess. This explains the owner Langston mentioned. The letter confirmed the ruby's sacred origins, stolen from a temple dedicated to Kali, the goddess of destruction. The translation noted Angeli's death shortly after the letter was sent, another heart attack, like Arjun Patel's. Poirot suspected poison, a pattern in this deadly game. He slipped the letter into his satchel, knowing it was a critical clue linking the ruby to the blackmailer's motives. As he closed the compartment, a soft thud came from the hallway. Poirot stepped out to find a maid, Clara, picking up a dropped tray, her face pale. "Sorry, sir. I didn't mean to startle you." Poirot's eyes narrowed. "Clara, you clean Sir Reginald's study often, oui? Did you ever see this letter, or hear of a priestess named Angeli?" Clara hesitated, then whispered, "I heard him talk of a curse once on the telephone. Said someone from India was watching him." I thought it was nonsense. Her nervousness mirrored Graves, and Poirot made a mental note to question the staff further. Someone in the manor knew more. Returning to Lady Evelyn, Poirot shared the letter's contents, watching her reaction. Angeli. Reginald never mentioned her, but he had nightmares after India, muttering about a goddess and blood. Could this priestess be behind the letters? Poirot shook his head. "She is dead, madame, but her warning lives on. Someone, perhaps a follower or relative, continues her work. Have you received any new letters?" Lady Evelyn produced a crimson envelope delivered that morning. It read, "The ruby's curse claims Amelia. Return it to its rightful place, or she dies." Poirot's blood ran cold. The blackmailer knew he was closing in. For viewers sleuthing with Poirot, here's a tip. Check for hidden compartments. Secret letters, like Angeli's, often hide behind paintings or panels. Look for uneven seams or loose fittings. Another tip, trust patterns. Multiple heart attacks. In this case, scream foul play, likely poison. Preserve documents like Poirot's satchel keepsakes for later analysis, as they may reveal motives. Poirot decided to contact the police to trace any Indian nationals in London linked to Kali's temple, possibly Angeli's kin. He also planned to revisit Lila Patel, as her father's role in the ruby's theft might connect to the priestess. The scarf-faced man remained a phantom, but his presence tied the manor, the postbox, and Langston together. As Poirot left the library, he caught Graves whispering to Clara in the hall, their voices hushed. Were they conspirators or merely scared? This chapter closes with Poirot in the manor's shadowy hall, the priestess's letter adding a supernatural chill to the case. The ruby's curse feels all too real, and Amelia's life hangs in the balance. In Chapter 9, Poirot tracks a lead to a temple connection in London and faces a dangerous ambush that tests his resolve. Stay tuned for the next twist. Chapter 9. The Temple's Echoes. Hercule Poirot stood in the dim hallway of Hawthorne Manor, the priestess Angeli's letter tucked safely in his satchel alongside the ruby pendant and other clues. The revelation of the ruby's theft from a Kali temple, coupled with the curse's threat and Amelia Hawthorne's ongoing disappearance, heightened the stakes. The latest Crimson Letter's demand to return the ruby to its rightful place echoed Angeli's warning, suggesting a successor was carrying out her vengeance. The whispers between Graves and Clara hinted at secrets within the manor, but Poirot's next lead was in London, a possible connection to Kali's followers who might know the blackmailer's identity. With his little grey cells working overtime, he set out to find a temple or community tied to the goddess, determined to uncover the truth before the blackmailer struck again. Poirot's first stop was the British Museum, where he consulted a curator friend, Dr. Margaret Wells, an expert in Indian antiquities. The museum's reading room was a quiet haven of books and artifacts, its air heavy with the scent of old parchment. Dr. Wells, a sharp-eyed woman in her 60s, greeted Poirot warmly. "Hercule, what brings you to my dusty corner?" Poirot produced the ruby pendant, careful not to touch it directly. "Madam, this ruby was stolen from a Kali temple in Calcutta 1925. A priestess named Angeli cursed its thief, Sir Reginald Hawthorne. Now, someone uses crimson letters to demand its return, and a young girl is missing. Are there Kali devotees in London Who might seek such revenge? Dr. Wells examined the ruby, her face grave. Cayley's worshippers are fierce about sacred, are relics. This pendant matches descriptions of a temple gem called the Eye of Kali, believed to channel the goddess's power. After its theft, the temple's followers scattered, some coming to London as merchants or labourers. There's a small Kali shrine in Whitechapel, run by a man named Dev Sharma. He's respected, but rumours say he harbours grudges against colonial looters. She provided an address near the postbox Poirot had investigated, a coincidence that sharpened his focus. Merci, Margaret. This Sharma may hold answers. The Whitechapel shrine was a modest room above a spice shop, its entrance marked by a garland of marigolds. Inside, the air was thick with incense, and a small statue of Kali, fierce, with her tongue out, and a necklace of skulls, stood on an altar. Dev Sharma, a wiry man in his 50s with piercing eyes, greeted Poirot cautiously. "You are the detective Poirot? Why do you come to this sacred place?" Poirot bowed slightly. "Monsieur Sharma, I seek the truth about a ruby stolen from Cayley's temple. It has brought death and threats to the Hawthorne family. Did you know Priestess Angeli or her followers?" Sharma's gaze hardened. "Angeli was my aunt. Her death broke our family. The ruby's theft was a sacrilege, and Hawthorne's greed killed her. Poison, not a heart attack." Poirot's pulse quickened. "And these crimson letters, monsieur? Your work, perhaps, to avenge her?" Sharma's voice was cold. "I honour Cayley with prayers, not threats. But others might. Angeli had a daughter, Mira, who swore to reclaim the ruby. She's in London, works as a nurse. I warned her to let it go, but her anger is deep." He gave Poirot Mira's address in Poplar, reluctance in his eyes. Poirot noted Sharma's clenched fists, a sign of loyalty to Mira, perhaps protecting her. Leaving the shrine, Poirot headed to Poplar, a working-class district of cramped flats and smoky chimneys. Mira's address led to a tidy tenement, where a young woman with intense eyes answered his knock. "Mira Angeli?" Poirot asked, noting her nurse's uniform. "I am Hercule Poirot, investigating the crimson letters tied to a ruby your mother cursed." Mira's face tightened. "My mother died because of that ruby. Hawthorne poisoned her to silence her protests. I've written no letters, but I know who might. Someone who worked with Sanjay Rao, a man named Vikram. He's obsessed with the ruby, says it's Cayley's will to punish the Hawthorns." Poirot recalled Vikram from the cafe, his sudden exit now more suspicious. Before he could ask more, a brick crashed through Mira's window, narrowly missing Poirot. Attached was a note in crimson ink. "Stop digging, detective, or the girl dies." Poirot's heart raced. The scarf-faced man was near. He rushed outside, but the street was empty, save for a flicker of movement in an alley. Mira, shaken, insisted she knew nothing of Amelia's whereabouts, but promised to contact Poirot if Vikram surfaced. "He's dangerous, monsieur. He believes the ruby's curse is his mission." Poirot left her his card, urging her to stay safe. Poirot telephoned Scotland Yard, reporting the attack and urging them to find Vikram and monitor Mira. The ruby's curse was no longer a metaphor. Someone was willing to kill to enforce it. With Amelia's life at stake, Poirot planned to confront Vikram directly, using Mira's lead. The scarf-faced man's ambush showed the blackmailer was desperate, but Poirot was closing in. This chapter ends with Poirot in Poplar's darkening streets, the crimson note's threat echoing in his mind. Mira's story ties the ruby to a vengeful daughter. but Vikram's role grows clearer. In Chapter 10, Poirot tracks Vikram to a deadly showdown that reveals the blackmailer's identity and Amelia's fate. If you're gripped by this tale, hit that subscribe button. Your support means the world. Stay tuned for the thrilling finale. Chapter 10. The Crimson Curtain. Fool's Hercule Poirot stood in the twilight shadows of Poplar, the brick-thrown crimson note in his satchel burning with urgency. Mira Anjali's revelation had pointed to Vikram, the cafe regular obsessed with the ruby's curse as a key player in the crimson letter scheme. With Amelia Hawthorne still missing and the scarf-faced man's attacks escalating, Poirot knew the final pieces of the puzzle were within reach. His little grey cells hummed, weaving together the ruby's theft, Anjali's curse, and the web of suspects: Lila Patel, Elias Crowe, Victor Langston, and now Vikram. Armed with Mira's tip that Vikram frequented an abandoned warehouse in Limehouse, Poirot set out for a showdown, determined to unmask the blackmailer, save Amelia, and end the ruby's deadly legacy. The fog thickened as he hailed a cab, the stakes never higher. Limehouse was a labyrinth of derelict docks and crumbling buildings, the air heavy with river dampness and coal dust. The warehouse, a sagging structure by the Thames, loomed dark against the night sky. Poirot approached cautiously, his cane tapping softly, eyes scanning for the scarf-faced man. Inside, the warehouse was a maze of crates and rusted machinery, lit by a single flickering lantern. A faint sound, a muffled sob, drew him deeper. Behind a stack of barrels, he found Amelia Hawthorne, bound and gagged, her eyes wide with fear. "Mademoiselle, courage," Poirot whispered, cutting her ropes with a pocket knife. "Who brought you here?" Amelia choked out. "A man, scarf over his face. He said the ruby must be returned." Before Poirot could free her fully, a shadow moved, a tall figure in a dark coat, scarf covering his lower face, holding a revolver. "You're too late, Poirot," the man growled, his voice deep and posh, matching Jenkins' description from The Post Box. "The ruby's curse ends tonight, with her blood." Poirot raised his hands, his voice calm. "Monsieur, reveal yourself. The game is over. I know you are Vikram, driven by Anjali's curse to punish the Hawthorns." The man laughed, pulling down his scarf to reveal Vikram's face, lined with rage. "You're clever, detective, but not clever enough. The ruby belongs to Kaylee. I'll finish what my aunt started." Vikram's confession poured out, fueled by years of bitterness. He had been Anjali's nephew, raised in the Kali temple, and witnessed its desecration when Sir Reginald stole the ruby. "My aunt cursed him, but he poisoned her, just as he did Arjun Patel. Sanjay Rao and I planned revenge, crimson letters to torment him. When Reginald died, I continued alone, targeting his family. Amelia was my leverage to force Lady Evelyn to return the ruby." Poirot's eyes gleamed. "And the payments to EC in Reginald's journal. Not Elias Crowe, but you, Vikram Chandra, using a false name to collect blackmail money." Vikram's grip on the gun tightened. "Crowe helped Reginald cover up the theft, took his cut. Langston too, they're all guilty. I sent letters to them all, demanding justice. But you, Poirot, you meddled too far." As Vikram raised the revolver, Poirot acted swiftly, kicking a crate to distract him. The gun fired, the bullet grazing a barrel. Amelia screamed, and Poirot tackled Vikram, wrestling the weapon free. Footsteps echoed. Scotland Yard, alerted by Poirot's earlier call, stormed in, restraining Vikram. "You cannot stop Kaylee's will," he shouted as they cuffed him. With Amelia safe, Poirot pieced together the final truths. Vikram had revived. Sanjay Rao's crimson letters, using the same paper from Griffin's press to maintain the illusion of a single blackmailer. Lila Patel and Meera Anjali, though angry, were innocent of the scheme. Lila had focused on rebuilding her life, and Meera had rejected violence. Elias Crowe and Victor Langston were complicit in Reginald's crimes, but not the kidnapping. The ruby, the Eye of Kali, was the heart of it all, a sacred relic whose theft had sparked a chain of poisonings, from Anjali to Arjun to Reginald, likely by Vikram or his allies. The heart attacks were no coincidence. Forensic tests, Poirot urged, would confirm poison. Back at Hawthorne Manor, Poirot reunited Amelia with Lady Evelyn, who wept with relief. He presented the ruby pendant, explaining its history. "Madame, this belongs to the temple. I suggest returning it through diplomatic channels to avoid further tragedy." Lady Evelyn nodded, handing over the crimson letters for evidence. Graves and Clara, questioned by police, admitted overhearing Reginald's fears of a curse, but denied involvement. The boy shadowing Poirot was a street urchin hired by Vikram, no more a threat. For viewers solving mysteries with Poirot, here's a final tip: confront with evidence. Poirot's knowledge of Vikram's alias and the paper's origin forced his confession. Always build a case before the showdown. Another tip: protect the vulnerable. Amelia's rescue hinged on quick action and police coordination. Preserve every clue, like Poirot's satchel of letters and the ruby, to ensure justice. As Poirot left the manor, the fog lifted and London's lights sparkled. The ruby's curse was broken, Vikram's arrest ending the crimson letters' reign. He telephoned Dr. Wells to arrange the ruby's return to Calcutta, closing the case with order restored. But as he walked away, a final crimson envelope slipped under his hotel door, read, "The goddess watches, Poirot. Be wary." He smiled, tucking it away. Mon Dieu, another mystery, perhaps. But for now, Hercule Poirot triumphs. This final chapter unveils Vikram as the mastermind, tying every clue, the ruby, the letters, the poisonings, into a tale of vengeance. Amelia is safe, the ruby's fate decided, and the Hawthorns can heal. If this tale gripped you, grab a cup of tea, hit that subscribe button, and comment your thoughts below. Your support means the world to us. Until the next mystery, au revoir.